Hello, everyone, and welcome to Trending Cycles. My name is Mike Radzicki, and I'm the founder of Trending Cycles. And the primary reason I created Trending Cycles was to teach people how to do something called system dynamics computer simulation modeling at a very high level. Let's call it the professional level, possibly the PhD research level, but also showing folks how to integrate system dynamics with economics in a manner that would be acceptable to both professional economists and system dynamics modelers. Now, by training, I'm an economist, but I also have been doing system dynamics as well as economics for over 40 years. So I think I have figured out a way to integrate the two areas in a profitable manner. And I'm hoping we're able to convey that to everybody through the Trending Cycles electronic presence. So the purpose of this video is to show everybody sort of a helicopter view or a sweeping overview of Trending Cycles electronic presence, or web presence. And although I'm not the greatest of artists, I tried to produce a figure here that gives sort of the bird's eye or systemic view of the various places to go on the internet to learn how to do system dynamics and economics. So starting from the upper left in the red box, you see that Trending Cycles is going to have a YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel will contain free content available to everybody. You can watch it at your leisure. For example, there will be a first course in system dynamics presented there, assuming somebody doesn't know anything really about it other than maybe they've heard about it, and taking them up to a level at which they're quite familiar with the history of the field, what the technique is used for, the software that's available, and how to open and use models, and maybe even begin to build small models correctly. It will also contain other material from economics, recordings of live stream webinars and stuff like that, that would complement the other free material. If you go to the bottom center of the figure in the green box, you'll see that there's a Facebook page, and this will be used primarily to inform people about the latest, greatest things happening at Trending Cycles. If there's a need to put up some, pictures or videos, or possibly if people want to, buy a mug or a hat or something, or a T-shirt with the Trending Cycles artwork on it, that'll take place there as well. And obviously, you see all the arrows on the figure. The various places on the internet to go are interrelated with one another, right? So you want to look at this electronic presence holistically in terms of if you want to fully utilize our resources. In the center or blue box, you'll see that there's a Trending Cycles Thinkific site. And this is the place where we will offer our formal coursework in system dynamics and economics. The YouTube channel will have free content. The Thinkific courses will have sometimes the exact same free content, which will be free. But there you will also be able to take a more formal course with the materials provided to you, models, PowerPoint presentations, PDF documents, as well as the ability to earn credentials. So nowadays you can get certificates of completion and electronic badges that will link to a server that will permanently record your what you learned, and that we certify you as knowing this, that, and the other. But there'll also be some quizzes and things to make sure people aren't awarded these credentials willy-nilly. You have to show us that you've paid attention to the material and what have you. So it's will be a more formal offering of the material that is presented for free in the YouTube channel. Some of the content there will be free, but some of it will be modestly priced. Obviously, we have to cover our costs of doing all this stuff. But we want to make it, when we charge a price, the price such that it's people, irrespective of your financial situation, can get access to the content. And then in the upper right of the figure, you see a purple box that says a Trending Cycles website. Now, over the many decades of teaching system dynamics and economics, I've reached the conclusion that it's possible to take somebody from the beginner level in system dynamics modeling and get them to what I'll call the intermediate level of a modeling skill through traditional coursework. You listen to lectures, you take notes, you take quizzes, you do homework assignments, and this sort of thing. And what I mean by the intermediate level, this is just my definition. I don't know that there's any universally known definition. But my definition is that an intermediate modeler can say, open somebody else's model and look at it and figure out what's going on and use it correctly. They can take a book or an article within which a system dynamics model is presented, possibly with figures and with the raw code, and you can reproduce that model in whatever software package, system dynamics software package that you typically use, and it will work correctly. Sometimes you have to fiddle with it a little bit to go from Dynamo to PowerSim, or PowerSim to Vensim, or Vensim to Stella, this sort of thing, but you have that skill. And finally, at the intermediate level, you can typically build an original model that's modest in size and is technically correct, but typically is not terribly insightful. And what I mean by that is when you run the model, it doesn't really tell you anything that you couldn't kind of think through on your own without the aid of a computer. If I make this parameter bigger, the thing grows faster. If I make it smaller, it grows more slowly. Well, yeah, you don't really need a computer to tell you that. You can kind of think through that. And the reason that this happens typically at the intermediate level, that you get these models that aren't terribly insightful, they don't generate counterintuitive behavior, is that they're often feedback poor. They don't have a complete representation of the important feedback processes that exist in complex systems, complex economic systems, and or they're fairly linear. They don't tend to have a rich array of nonlinear relationships. Broadly, you can think of nonlinearities in system dynamics modeling as being appropriate when there are limiting factors in systems, right? Ceilings and floors. And if if there's a limit on your credit card, right, a financial limit, or a limit on the number of widgets you can keep on your shelf or in your warehouse, or cognitive limitations, you can't keep track of more than this, that, and the other, right? And those limitations are important. You have to model them or include them in your model, and this requires nonlinear relationships. So when you build models that don't have a lot of that stuff in it correctly represented, you tend to have models that aren't terribly insightful. So to get folks to beyond the intermediate level, it really requires, I think, mentorship. And this is where the Trending Cycles website will be important. So if you have accumulated the right number of badges, you're eligible to become a premium member at the Trending Cycles website. And premium membership will give you access to advanced material, live stream webinars where you can ask questions, interviews with prominent system dynamics people and economists and what have you. But importantly, you'll be able to book time with senior modelers who can take a look at your modeling effort and say, all right, what are we trying to do here? Show me. And then they might say, what's happening over here in this sector or area of your model? What are you trying to do there? Aha. have you considered this? Or a system dynamics modeler would typically do that this way. This sort of feedback, and often I find that the intermediate modelers not aware of that sort of stuff. They might have heard it in a lecture or something like that, but they weren't ready to hear it, and it wasn't meaningful to them at that point in time. And then they circle back and they say, "Oh, I get it now. Why you covered that in a class or something like that." Or maybe it wasn't even covered. Maybe it was just something that occurred to the senior modeler and was, it seemed appropriate for the particular situation. The other sort of advanced skill, by the way, to go from the intermediate to the advanced level is the best modelers can go into a situation where there are experts and stakeholders telling you about a problem, and they know a lot about the domain area, right? Because they live and work in that domain area every day, all day. And you have to be able to hear what they're telling you, as well as ask the right questions so that you can filter out the stuff that's not important and identify the important information and then build an original model from that. And that's also a tricky business and an advanced skill that we hope to start people learning about at the Trending Cycles website with premium membership. There'll also be some free stuff at the Trending Cycles website as well. We hope that both system analysis and economists and people interested in economics will routinely come there to see what we're up to and our thoughts on the affairs of the day and so forth. Now, with our acumen in Trending Cycles in economics and system dynamics, we recognize that it's really hard to be good at every single thing, right? Even in economics, to know everything about economics and so forth. So, so we really thought hard about, what's our sweet spot? We have this particular perspective. To what areas are we going to be good at applying these tools and this perspective? And so this is again, I'm a bad artist, but my attempt to identify our sweet spot. So you can see with the big black circle, that's your system dynamics computer simulation modeling area. And obviously these circles are overlapping, right, to show where our work resides. To the right of that is a gray circle. That's your economics, including behavioral and experimental economics. So we pride ourselves at Trending Cycles at looking to behavioral and experimental economics and to some degree psychology to find out what people do when they really make their decisions, warts and all of their cognitive limitations and biases and all that stuff, and figuring out how to correctly represent that in a system dynamics model, both correctly represented in terms of the code, but also not willy-nilly use these things, but these relationships, but use them appropriately. And then the third large circle there in red is serious games. So when I see serious games, I don't mean games like ha-ha, but rather games that can be played by, well, anyone, but particularly people who didn't participate in the creation of a model and aren't necessarily terribly interested in all the mathematical details, but would like to use and learn from the model. So you have to make the model into a user-friendly mousetrap that anybody can use with sliders and buttons and gauges and stuff like that. And by the way, this doesn't mean that a serious game can't be fun and engaging. We certainly want it to be that, so people try hard and think hard and learn, but it's not just mindlessly killing zombies or something like that with a ray gun, right? And there are ways that gaming professionals have learned to do that, right? So we want to be able to take our system dynamics / economics models and turn them into games, serious games, in a manner that would be acceptable to a professional gamer. And these can be single player games, multiplayer games, the games that are have a short duration, a long duration, games where you run the entire simulation at once, or you run it, the model goes for 1 or 2 simulated weeks and stops and allows you to to change your strategy, all different twists and turns on that. There are also some smaller circles here that are sort of supply ships. If you want to think of the big three circles and their interface there as the sweet spot is the aircraft carrier, these would be kind of support ships or support ideas. To the left, the smaller circle says data science. We're not here to try and at Trending Cycles to make you into a data scientist. If you want to be one of those, there are places to go to become one of those. But on the other hand, there are techniques from data science that can be used profitably in system dynamics modeling. So we want to identify what those are and show everybody, how to use them to enhance a system dynamics model. And then below that, there's a small circle in burnt orange that says trading system. So if you think of Trending Cycles, what does the name imply? Well, there's a cycle. Economic systems go up and down, and then there's a trend, which we mean growth or decline, sadly, sometimes. And trends are usually exponential, not linear, despite what people might think. And certainly macro economies, exhibit a trend and cycle or cycles that interact. But also the financial markets do these things. They have a trend and a cycle. What I mean is equity markets, mutual funds, exchange traded funds, options and futures contracts, currency pairs, cryptocurrencies, right? So we think at Trending Cycles that a lot of our ideas can be applied to trading the financial markets. And of course, the internet makes that possible from your own living room if you want to take some personal control of your financial future. So we want to begin offering instruction in that. And then finally, again, with our support ships here, there's a blue circle to the right that says schools of thought. And what I mean by that is, in order to understand how economics and system dynamics can work together, you have to understand that economists have divided themselves, possibly not explicitly or by design, but they've nonetheless kind of divided themselves or sorted themselves into schools of thought. And what I mean by that is a school of thought in economics are like-minded economists who kind of do economics in the same way. They write for the same journals, they read the same journals, they go to the same conferences, they know one another, they train doctoral students and swap them among themselves. And certain schools of thought in economics do economics, those economists, in a manner that would be highly meshable, integratable, whatever you want to say, with system dynamics. Some of these economists might not actually know that yet, but that's, again, one of the perhaps reasons that Trending Cycles exists, is to educate both system dynamics people and economists. And I think we can learn from one another. So the application areas of our sweet spot, certainly economics, I've been mentioning that constantly in this video, but if we do well in economics, broadly speaking, and then, macro, micro, monetary policy, labor economics, and what have you, ecological economics and so forth. There are other areas to which we might branch out. One would be healthcare policy. Another one, litigation support. So more and more system dynamics modeling is being used in court cases, civil litigation. And it's being used often to estimate damages. If the plaintiff hadn't done what we allege them to have done, here's what would have happened, and here's what actually happened. And the difference is, an estimate of the, let's say, the damages. And attorneys are not typically trained in system dynamics, but maybe some of them should be. Veterinary medicine. More and more veterinarians are arguing that many diseases that affect humans start in the animal world, so that the animal world, the human world, and the environment all interact with one another. And to fully understand the origins of disease and what have you, you have to take a holistic or systems approach. And of course, some of them have thought that system dynamics is a good tool for that. that area in veterinary medicine is called One Health. Project management and supply chain management are kind of sort of econ-like areas, and they are traditional areas of system dynamics modeling where we know a lot. Project management looks at why are there cost and scheduling overruns in large scale projects and how do you mitigate them. And supply chain management, well, right now at the time of this recording, we're coming off the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and because of all the shutdowns and what have you from that pandemic, there are supply chain challenges right now. And so looking at that from a systems perspective might be profitable. And sustainability, sustainable development, sustainability studies, that's also a long time area in system dynamics. It's kind of your ecological economics area. And since traditionally there's a lot of work that's been done in system dynamics, maybe we want to call it environmental dynamics is another way to think about it. You know, we think that that's possibly an area as well. And then of course I mentioned trading system development. So hopefully that was useful to you to see where we're at and where we're going with trending cycles. I hope to see you in our courses, to interact with you on our premium membership site. And we can all learn how to use system dynamics modeling and apply it to economics in a way that helps us all do better in our daily lives. So with that, I'll end it here. Always remember, if it moves, you can model it. Cheers.